I use Good morning. My name is Kelly. I use she, her pronouns. I am here with Kathy. Both of us are from the background check unit. We are the unit that does background checks for home care workers. And we are going to present to you today an overview of what we do, the background check process, and other information for you. Okay. The background check unit does what it says. We do criminal records checks and abuse checks. We do these background checks on the employees of the department and the Oregon Health Authority, the employees, contractors, and volunteers. But the vast majority of our work is for provider subject individuals. These are home care workers, personal support workers, personal care attendants, and also the people who work or live in adult foster homes, employees and volunteers of assisted living facilities, nursing facilities, child caring agencies, and a whole host of other folks. We're doing those background checks all the time. In addition to the background checks, if someone has an adverse outcome, we run the appeals for those background checks. We have some hearing representatives who work with the subject individuals to get to something more positive, get to an approval. It can go all the way to a contested case hearing. We also have a branch called Clearinghouse. This is a program for businesses and organizations that are not associated with a state agency. So if they're interested in doing background checks, we'll do them for museums, theaters, churches, programs that provide services to people with autism, things like that. We do all of those. And then finally, we have a service that looks at abuse checks for folks that are out of state. There's some federal requirements for child care providers or folks that are fostering or adopting children. They have to go through a background check that includes out of state history. So we get that, we do that information also.
And Kelly, we do have some questions. We've got someone
Okay.
with their hand raised.
Okay, thank you.
So, and I lost the name of the person. So I think that if you raise your hand, actually you can't speak, but you can put your question in the chat. I remember. So if you're raising your hand for a question, you'll need to put your question, type it into the chat.
And everyone's welcome to turn your cameras off if you'd like. Save some bandwidth.
So we have another raised hand. So please put your question into the chat.
Okay, I'll chat to her and see.
Okay. Shall I continue?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. I want to focus the rest of this hour on the background check process for you all, for home care workers. When I say home care workers, I'm talking generally all home care workers, personal support workers, and personal care attendants. The process that we go through, you all, we call them subject individuals, that's our jargon. An SI submits an application to become a home care worker. The local office, it's going to be a branch, an office, a brokerage, wherever you are working to become a home care worker. There's a local person there named a qualified entity designee or a QED. They start the background check process in our system, which is called Orchards. Once they submit the basics of the background check, information that we need, Orchard sends you an email. You will get this from the email address that I've put on the screen here. You will have 7 days to provide authorization for the background check. We require you all to authorize the background check because it's about you. So you need to give us permission to do that. We also ask about any disclosures about criminal history, abuse history, and where you've lived in the past 5 years. All of this is to help us gather information to make a really good fitness determination. And I'll explain how we use that as we go through the slides. Okay, once you get that email, we do have a website here, and we'll put this in the chat. It's always helpful to go to this website. It does have Google Translate on it, and it has several different documents that we use during the background check process. There are lots of questions on that website that you can go through before you start your process in Orchards to get the background check going. So once you go through that information, just to get an overview of what's happening, you have instructions in your email about how to get into Orchards and how to provide that authorization and disclosure. You do that again within 7 days. Once we get that information, Orchards actually automatically runs a criminal records check immediately on folks. Then we have staff that go through the pending background checks, and they review them, see if they can make an immediate fitness determination after running the abuse checks, or if fingerprints are needed. It may well be that we also need more information from you, so we'll send a letter to you if that's the case. The vast majority of background checks that we do, it's just a matter of time going through them and gathering all the information that we need to make a fitness determination. But there are these steps of fingerprints and more info letters that might delay the process. Once we make a fitness determination, we will notify the QED or the subject individual or both of them, depending on the outcome of the background check. Okay. I wanted to give a little bit more details about the timeline for extra steps. We don't require fingerprints from everyone. It's around currently about 35% of folks that do a background check through us need to have fingerprints done. Some of the reasons for doing fingerprints, have you lived outside the state of Oregon within the last 5 years? Do you have an ID card, a driver's license that is not from Oregon? And this includes passports. If our system sees that you have a passport that the QED has put in, we will require fingerprints because of that passport. So it's best to have an Oregon ID when you're going through this process. If there's any indication of criminal history, if you disclose something, we see something in our law enforcement data system, then we'll require fingerprints. If we can't figure out who you are, because you have a very common name, then we will also require fingerprints. Now, when we do need fingerprints, the QED at the local office will get an email from BCU saying, hey, fingerprints are needed. They have a letter that's inside of Orchards. They need to go in and create that letter for you. That starts the clock on getting fingerprinted. You have 21 days to be fingerprinted. The easiest way is to go through FieldPrint. There are offices all over Oregon and in fact the United States, but if you can't go through them, there are also instructions in the letter about using local law enforcement offices. I see some hands up. Kathy, is there anything I need to stop for?
So far, we've been asking people to unmute it, aren't I?
Everybody,
you're
everybody's
unmuted.
muted. You'll stay. If you raise your hand with the question, we are keeping everybody muted, so you're going to need to chat your question in. If you have a question, you're going to need to chat it in the chat box, and then they'll read your question. Okay,
Right.
no problem. Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Another thing that might delay a background check is a more info letter. And these are specifically for people where we do find history. We want to get to an approval for you, but there's just some information that would really be helpful for us to make that decision. If we need that, we'll create a letter with several questions on it, and we will send it to you via postal mail. We'll let the QED know that there is a little bit of delay, that we've asked for information. We don't tell them the questions that we're asking. We don't tell them any of your history or any questions, but we give them a heads up so they can help encourage you make it to that deadline for the information that we need. You can send that via mail, email, fax, whatever you have available. We can receive that information, and then we'll be able to make a fitness determination. If you do have a need for a little bit longer time, please contact us before the deadline so we can give you a bit of an extension. Okay. Now, all of you who are here have gone through the background check process because you're already home care workers. But I wanted to go through what we consider as potentially disqualifying or as a mandatory exclusion. Again, the vast majority of people don't have this history, but if they do, then we have to look at it and we have to make decisions based on that history. We have some mandatory exclusions in Oregon. There is a statute in Oregon that says if somebody has a conviction for like a person crime, like assault 3, or a property crime, like burglary, they just can't work as a home care worker. There are some smaller groups within this list where it's not a forever ineligibility, it's only a 10-year or a 5-year ineligibility. For example, delivery or manufacturers of drugs, those ones have a 10-year exclusion. There are certain crimes that if your clients are all over 65, the exclusion is only for 5 years. For example, theft 1. Now, if the exclusion time is still up, these crimes are still considered potentially disqualifying, and we can do a weighing test on those. Before I explain a weighing test, I just want to reiterate these mandatory exclusion convictions, while they are a mandatory exclusion, we don't have any say in the decision making. We have to make a person ineligible. For potentially disqualifying convictions or conditions, we do have a say in this. These are situations where there's crimes or criminal history or abuse history where we are not going to automatically say you're denied. We're going to look at information that you have given us, that the records are giving us, to make an informed decision about you being a home care worker. First off, we look at criminal history. There's a long list of convictions that we must look at. Sometimes we look at arrests or pending charges. We also look at post-conviction information like being on probation, probation violations. There's a full list that's available on the BCU website. And again, we'll have this in the chat so you can go look at and download those lists. We also have them in several languages on the website. We look at potentially, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, before you go on too
Oh,
far,
you
it
did
was the
raise your hand.
previous slides before you started about potentially disqualifying abuse.
Sure.
We had a question about the additional information requested from the SI by postal mail or email to the SI. Can you explain why it comes by postal mail and why we don't send it by email?
Sure. When we ask questions, we're asking about your history, and that's confidential information. Based on what the federal guidelines and state guidelines are, they believe that sending this information through a letter through the Postal Service is safer than sending it other ways. So if we are asking questions about something that we've seen on your criminal record or your abuse record, we want it to be confidential, so we're following guidelines that we have been given from the federal government and from Oregon regarding that.
Thank you. And if we did not answer your question, that's what you were asking, please give me some more clarification. Thank you, Kelly, for pausing.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you jumped in. For potentially disqualifying abuse, we look at two different types of abuse. Abuse where the victim is an adult, abuse where the victim is a child. For adult victims, we only look at information from Oregon, and we only look at serious abuse since 2010. Financial abuse, neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse. As you all are mandatory, you have to mandatorily report abuse. You're probably aware of these types of abuse and understand them. We look at them, but again, they're potentially disqualifying. We do not automatically deny anyone just because they've had an abuse investigation. We also look at child abuse. This is also done by the Department of Human Services, Child Welfare. We look at any type of abuse, regardless of how long ago it occurred. Again, it's potentially disqualifying, not automatically disqualifying. If we do find something, that opens the door for us to do a weighing test. There's a weighing test flyer on our BCU website in several translations. It explains what we're looking for when we make a decision. We're looking at what's potentially disqualifying itself, the history of it, the incident, how old you were at the time, what happened because of the incident. We look at all that information. We look at what happened since the potentially disqualifying situation. What have you done in your life? What is your work history? What trainings have you gone through since then? How have you changed things? Any information that you have on that is really helpful for us to know how to make a decision. And then finally, we look at relevancy of the position to this decision. You may have something in your past that really has absolutely nothing to do with the current job of being a home care worker. If that's the case, then we give that less weight than we would give to something else that directly impacts how you can do the job. So we look at all this information, we put it all together. As I said, if we need a more info letter, we will send that out to you and gather information from you. And then we make a decision once we gather all that information. If you are approved as a provider, this can mean one of two things. It means that you have absolutely nothing on your record, no abuse, no criminal history, nothing potentially disqualifying. It also could mean that there are PDQs on your record. You do have some history, but we've done a weighing test and determined that there's no risk to vulnerable individuals, so we approve you. In this situation, when we do an approval, we will send notification to the local office, the QED, and they need to provide that letter to you. If we do a weighing test and we realize that we need to deny you, that's because there are things that are potentially disqualifying in your history, and our weighing test indicates that we see risk to vulnerable individuals. In this case, we will send a letter to the local QED that says you're not approved. There are no other details than that. We will send you a postal letter that explains what the PDQs are, what we're seeing, and that's the reason why we've made a denial. And we also give you appeal rights, information on how to appeal that decision if you disagree with it. I should make a note that if something is a mandatory exclusion, like I mentioned before, in those situations, we do not have hearing rights for you. There are very few instances where we might do a restricted approval. For example, no driving, working with only one client. In that situation and in a denial situation, you can appeal the decision. You have 30 days to do that from the date on the letter that you receive. You'll get an immediate intro letter from our appeals team, and it explains the basics of what's going to happen. We do these appeals in the order that we receive them, and depending on how many we have in our queue, it may take a couple of months to reach out to you and start that appeal process. Our team will do research. They're going to do a deep dive into all the information that they have to get as much information from courts, from local law enforcement, from abuse investigations, and from you to make a better decision in this case. If we can overturn it, we certainly will. It's really important to work with the appeals team because they really want to approve these decisions. However, if we can't, then the case can go all the way to a contested case hearing, and this is in front of a neutral administrative law judge, and they make a new fitness determination based on the information that they received during before and during the hearing. Okay. Final points. Again, I want to reiterate that most people do not have anything that's potentially disqualifying or that's a mandatory exclusion. Most people just don't have that. However, if you do, please work with us. It really, really helps us to make a better decision if we have more information from you. If all we have is a conviction and no explanation from you, no information from you, then we're just stuck with the conviction. So it's really, really helpful for you to provide information to us. You've all gone through orchards. One thing that you will see the next time you need to do a recheck, that Orchards now allows you to upload documents while you're answering the questions. That will make it easy for you to contact us directly and get that information to us. You don't have to go through the QED anymore. You can also email us at the email that we've got here on the screen. As you all know, there is a recheck cycle for home care workers. You have to do a background check every 2 years. That's based on the date of the background check approval. So it may not be in line with the credentialing that you need to do with your local office for keeping your home care worker number. It may be off. One of the reasons for this is because this type of background check is actually portable with other jobs. If you want to be a home care worker and also work in an adult foster home or an assisted living facility, then you can do that without going through a new check. The local office or the employer will put information into Orchards, and Orchards will come back and say, hey, this person is already approved, so we don't need to do a new check. So because of that, you're still on a 2-year recheck cycle from that original first check. So that's why the timing gets off a little bit. Again, we've got the website here. I really suggest that you go to this website. There's information for job applicants, particularly frequently asked questions from job applicants. And on that page, we have a lot more detailed information and answers to your questions. And as I said, we also have several documents on that page, potentially disqualifying history lists, weighing test information, appeals forms. We have all that information on our website. It has Google translation, and several of the forms also are translated, and you can download the form that you need in your preferred language. All right, that's the basics that I have on the background check process. Kathy, are you seeing any questions or any comments to address?
I've been answering some questions in the chat. and they have been very specific. And so that's why I didn't stop you. And actually, there is one question that just came in. Can you also explain what potentially disqualifying the P, because we have it on our slideshows as PDQ, and I know that's internally a common word we use and understand. Can you explain a little bit more why we use that word and what that means?
I sure will. And I apologize for our jargon. Saying potentially disqualifying conviction or condition every time we need to is a bit of a mouthful. So we just call them PDQs. For home care workers, we have two groups, the criminal history and the abuse history. For criminal history, we actually have 3 tiers of crimes that are considered potentially disqualifying. We will look back at a crime that is a permanent review crime, regardless of how long ago it occurred. This is, for example, a delivery of a controlled substance. It makes you ineligible for 10 years. After that, we consider it a perm review crime, which means regardless of how old it is, we will look at it and do a weighing test. We have a 10-year list. This list looks at crimes that occurred within 10 years or history that has occurred within 10 years of the fitness determination that we do. The vast majority of crimes in Oregon fall in this list, like disorderly conduct, criminal trespass, even assault 4. These are the types of crimes, theft 2 and 3. These are the types of crimes that fall in the 10-year list. If it's older than 10 years, we're not even going to look at it. If it's within that 10-year time frame, then again, we'll do a weighing test on it. The final tier is a 5-year list. This list only has 2 crimes in it. That is DUIs, driving under the influence, or BUIs, which are using a motor vehicle while intoxicated. In both of these situations, you actually need to have 2 convictions of DUI within 5 years from the date that we do the criminal records check on you. That's pretty hard to do. In Oregon, usually the first DUI that a person has is they go to a diversion, and once they finish the diversion, the charge is dismissed. So to get 2 convictions within a 5-year period means you didn't do diversion and you haven't you actually get convicted of the DUI, and then you have another DUI. So those are the 3 lists that we have that are considered potentially disqualifying. We also look, as I said, about other criminal history, and depending on the crime that's associated with it, your probation, probation violations, warrants, pending charges, it depends on the actual crime as to whether we look at it for 5 years, 10 years, or as long as it's on your record, as far back as it goes. I hope that answers the question, but if we have any other detailed questions, I can answer it.
Yes, we don't have any coming in yet, but I do have another question that I got several questions about the recheck process. And I have just a very short sentence. Do you have time to explain how does the provider know when to start their recheck and what steps they need to do to start their new background check?
Definitely. As I said, the background check lasts for 2 years. About, excuse me, at 120 days before that expiration date, and again at 60 days if needed, Orchard sends out a letter to the QED and says, hey, this person needs a new background check. So our first point of contact is with the local office. It's their responsibilities to start the new background check, to alert you that it's happening, And then you'll go through the process the same way as you did the first
right.
time, where you get an email from Orchards and you have to provide your authorization and disclosure again, and we go
What
through the
happened?
whole process again. Um,
All right.
we do send that out, as I said, 120 days
Okay.
before your expiration date. Again, it may not match your recredentialing that you need to do to be a home care worker. The timing might be a little bit off. But once we send that information out, the QED should contact you. If we haven't received a new background check in Orchards, then we'll send out another reminder to them at 60 days before the expiration date. You should receive a copy of your approval letter from the QED, from the local office, and that letter gives you the expiration date for the background check. I also want to mention that sometimes we will do a background check earlier than that. We call it a reason to believe, or RTB, as you see on the screen. This is a situation where we learn about new criminal history or new abuse history that's potentially disqualifying. And at that point, we will jump in and tell the local office, hey, we need a background check now. We won't explain to them the reason that we need that background check. We'll just say, hey, we need one now. And they should contact you and start that process. I don't know the rules for home care workers as to whether you need to disclose any new arrests or pending abuse or things like that. However, as you've seen from the list, not everything is potentially disqualifying. So if you do need to report to us about a new arrest or new abuse, or the local office reports to us, we will look at that information to see if we need to do a new background check immediately. If we do, as I said, we'll contact the office. If we don't, we'll wait to the 2-year recheck at that time.
Perfect. Thank you. You've answered the questions that have been asked in here, so that's great. Thank you. There's another question. I don't know if you covered it because I have been answering other questions. What does RTB stand for?
Yes, RTB means reason to believe. That's our fancy jargon for we have a reason to believe that a new background check is needed. So if we learn of new history that is potentially disqualified, then we will ask for a new background check. We have a reason to believe there's a new background check. One thing that may come up, if you are involved with an abuse investigation and you're considered the respondent or the alleged perpetrator for that abuse, most abuse that we have in Oregon, if you have a substantiation or a founded because of that abuse, you have the ability to request an appeal for that. We wait for that time period to happen. So if you get an immediate notification that you have new abuse, that doesn't mean you have to do a background check immediately. You've got a certain period of time where you can appeal that decision. Once that decision has been made, the final decision, either because you didn't appeal or you have gone through the appeal process, once there is that final decision, at that point, if it's potentially disqualifying, then we will send out an RTB, a reason to believe that we need a new background check.
Stop.
So that's the information I have. I wanted to say thank you to everyone. I'm changing the slide away from the website and the email address, but I can move it back if you would like me to. Anytime you do want to contact us, if you do have questions, please use that bcu.info email. And many times the folks that are answering the emails could do that very quickly. If they have questions, they end up sending them directly to Kathy and me, and we can answer those questions.
And Kelly, do we have the phone number to the background check unit? Some people might, the person that answers our phones is also very sharp and very good with all the questions. And if she doesn't know the answer, she does send it to Kelly and I to help out. I don't know.
I will put that, or I will say it out loud, and then
I'll put it in the chat.
and you can put it in the chat. I know it by heart, but just in case, I want to make sure that I read it out loud to get it to you correctly. All right. The main phone line for BCU is 503-378-5470. We also have a toll-free line, which is 888-272-5545. Both of these lines are set up with an answering system. So you'll get the usual automated voices and punch 1 or 2 or 3, whatever, to leave a question or get more information. Definitely, if you get this and you would like to leave a question, please leave a message on that and we'll get back in touch with you. We also have a fax number if you're interested. That is 503-378-6314. I know this is old technology, but sometimes people find it easy to use a fax machine to send in information if we request more information from them. Kathy's been taking care of the questions in the chat. For the folks hosting this, the OHCC folks, do you have any questions or anything that I didn't cover that you would like to add?
Let's see. I think you covered renewals. When the person who needs to have their renewal, they need to initiate that process themselves, correct?
Well,
They will hear from the local office. When there is a renewal time, we send out notification to the local office, and they are responsible for letting you know that a new background check is needed.
Okay.
right. But I'll add to that if it's starting to get close to your, I'd say within, depends on your comfort level, because you have 120 days, but please don't wait until the day before to reach out to your local office. 30 days, 60 days is best to at least get the background check initiated if you don't hear from them.
Yes, definitely. Again, make sure that they give you a copy of your approval letter. You'll see the expiration date on that letter, and put that on your calendar. And if it's getting close and you haven't heard from the local office for doing a recheck, definitely reach out to them and say, hey, it's time for me to do a background check. I don't want to have my background check expire.
Can we put the phone number in the chat? I think there's a few questions coming up about the phone number for the orchards.
It's in there.
It is. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I do have a question, Kelly, that maybe you can help with, and maybe I'm not understanding it correctly. It says, I'm not understanding, does a person get denied from DHS before you get the background check first if they feel they could qualify for the steps pre-qualification for approval? Lily, I think maybe this is your question, because our denials don't come out until after the background check.
Right. Can you read that one more time, please? I'm looking for it myself.
Okay, it's at the very end that I can see. It says, I don't understand. So does a person get denied from DHS before you get the background check first if they feel they could qualify for the steps pre-qualification for approval. Because
Okay.
I think this is two different things. I
Yes,
have a
I think
background
so.
check question, but I think they're asking you for your process.
Okay. Well, the process, there are more than just a background check, that is required for, re-credentialing is what we would call that. So the background check is one of the requirements. Okay, so I'm not understanding. So does a person get denied DHS before you get the background check? You do need to have your renewal background check done every renewal time. Um, and the other credentials are equally important. So I'm gonna have to say it depends. So if you had an exclusion, if a person was on the exclusion list, that could deny them. So I suppose in a few certain situations it could happen, but I would definitely follow up with the office that's processing and find out exactly what the reason for the non-denial was. The other paperwork can certainly be completed, such as the provider enrollment agreement and training. Okay. I don't know if that answered the question. To initial, for an initial. For an initial person, if they're unsure, I mean, we would have no way of knowing ahead of time if they're going to pass or not. So I would recommend that if a person is initially wanting to apply, they're not sure if they're going to pass or not, just fill out the entire application, complete all the requirements. The background check should be processed. And if it's denied, there's the weighing test that Kelly talked about. They'll look at what is in the background and see if it qualifies for the background to be approved anyway. So I would encourage, if you're not sure, instead of trying to figure it out ahead of time, just go ahead and complete the full application. I hope that helps. Okay, you're welcome. All right.
Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, the system that we use, Orchards, it has been created to work with any type of system that you're using, like a smartphone or a tablet or your computer. However, we do a lot of active testing on this because smartphones and tablets, they're changing so quickly and there are new versions all the time. So if you have difficulty doing the background check process, please work with your local office, get ideas from them on where you can find a computer to finish the background check authorization and disclosure.
And I'm going to ask, did anybody else, I heard Kelly fading. Does she need to repeat the information about using the mobile phone, or did everybody else hear her?
Maybe just repeat it.
Okay,
Sure.
Kelly, you faded out. So the majority of what you said, I couldn't hear,
Oh,
but I knew what you were saying.
That's fine. My dogs were barking. I just wanted to mention that the Orchard system should work on smartphones, tablets, computers. However, smartphones and tablets especially are being updated so quickly, we may not be able to keep up with the version that you have. If you have trouble doing your authorization and disclosure on a smartphone, then please work with your local office, your contacts. If you work with provider navigators, work with any of them to find a computer where you can use the system in a computer and it will work better for you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions before we wrap up?
Well, actually, Kelly, do you want to talk about the upload button that's brand new, something that just came out this week? So it's something they can look forward to. We're kind of excited about. This is a new feature in Orchards that's for the providers when you do your disclosure. Kelly?
Yeah, this is as Kathy said, a new feature. I'll mention it again. The next time you go through a background check with us and you go into Orchards to give your authorization and your disclosure, you'll see at the bottom of the screen an upload button. You can use this to provide us documents, either certificates you have, written information you have about your history, anything that you would like us to use during the background check process. You can upload it directly to Orchards and we will get it directly and attached to your file directly. This is particularly for people who do have something potentially disqualifying and they want to give us more information that we can use during the weighing test. It's always very helpful hearing from you and getting that information up front that could speed up the background check process. I really appreciate you inviting us to be here. As I said, we have the email address and the website and the phone numbers in the chat for you. If you have any other questions that you think of afterwards, definitely send us an email and we'll get that answered for you.
Okay, thank you so much. We really appreciate your presentation today. It was very helpful. And thanks everybody for attending. I think we've answered all your questions. One last round. If you have any questions, now would be the time to put them in the chat box. Okay, looks like we're good. We're going to close our meeting now. Thank you again.
Thank you.